At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
Auburn, Placerville, Nevada City. These are but a few of the names of the towns that dot what we call California's gold country. The cities and counties they reside in have rich histories and aspirations. Where is gold country and what is its future? Joining us today with a gold country perspective are Kevin Hanley, CEO of the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, and Bill Mueller, CEO of Valley Vision. Kevin, where is gold country?
I would describe gold country from the north, Nevada City, Grass Valley area, going down the spine of Highway 49, all the way down to the Yosemite area, Mariposa, Oakhurst. It's a thin area of oak woodlands, some pine trees, some small farming and ranches between the Central Valley on one side and the huge Sierra Nevada mountains on the other.
And this area historically has been a place that has kind of been the gateway between the more urbanized Sacramento region and the Sierras themselves. Being caught in between those two areas, is there a little bit of kind of schizophrenia in terms of which aspect of California they're more allied with or have a greater affinity to?
I think that's the case. They're not properly mountain and they're not properly valley. They're the foothill communities, and so they are sort of caught in between, but they have the best of both worlds. They have access to the valley and all its attributes, but they also are a very short drive away from some amazing assets in the Sierra Nevada. So sometimes forgotten, but always appreciated, because it's the place where we get our water, it's where we get a lot of our food, it's a place where we recreate, and it's a place that we ought to get to know a little bit better.
Kevin, why do people move? Why do people locate up to gold country? What are they seeking?
I think they're seeking the small town experience, and the gold country evolved from the very beginning of the state with the gold rush in Placerville and Auburn and Grass Valley, Sonora, as small historic towns. And when you walk into a small store in Auburn, you do get a friendly feeling from the owner is probably waiting on you. They're not in a hurry. They can custom design what you need, and you're not just a number. And I think a lot of Californians seeing that small town feeling is going away. So I think there is a nostalgia about the gold country and small town America that we still have, fortunately, in California, in our gold country. So I think that is a powerful, attractive basis. I think a lot of young families are moving to certain parts of the valley. They want to have access to gold country to raise their kids, have a lot of recreation. So I think that's a powerful thing that attracts people.
You're the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Is it true that Auburn, for instance, doesn't have any big box stores?
We do have some big box stores. Costco is being debated today by the Placer County Board of Supervisors. So there are some like Home Depot and so forth. They're mainly in the edge of the valley, the Roseville, the Rockland, Lincoln area, Galleria. That's where they mainly are located, but there are some in the gold country.
And actually, you raise a point that should not be missed, which is that actually Roseville in South Placer County is part of gold country itself. Absolutely. Despite its urbanization. So you really do run the range here.
If you look around the lower parts of Roseville and Rockland, you'll see the old tailings piles of rock that are the aftermath of placer mining, where they used to shoot these amazing sort of forces of water against the hillside and wash the sand and dirt and collect the gold from it. And those piles are all throughout Placer County.
Now, you talk about history. Now, how did you first come to live in gold country?
So I was actually born in the Bay Area, but like many people in the Bay Area, my father got priced out. He was an auto mechanic, and so he wanted a better life for he and his family. So we wound up moving to a very small town right outside of Rough and Ready.
Rough and Ready.
Rough and Ready. Again, a great community that had all of about 600 people. It had a blacksmith shop.
A blacksmith.
A very old gas station and a country store with the old wood floors and the creaky screen door, and it was just a fabulous place to grow up. In fact, you know, sort of going back to those days, Rough and Ready actually succeeded from the Union. They became their own country when back in the 1800s, fed up so much with the federal government. They wanted to be their own country, and so Succession Days are celebrated to this day.
So nothing's changed, right?
Nothing's changed, that's right.
That independent
There is
spirit.
an independent streak in the foothills, for sure.
Like, yeah, it sounds like that thread, even back from the 1800s, still carries through today.
Yes, many small businesses in the Sierra, they provide 70 to 80% of the jobs in the area. There is a lot of independence. A lot of people want to be left alone in certain respects, but we are dependent on the metropolitan areas also.
So, you know, I'm going to ask you a city question.
A city question.
Okay. What do people do up there?
People have a great time in the foothills. For instance, Auburn, the entire eastern edge of our small town, is American River Canyon. And on any day of the week, you go there, you see people hiking, riding their mountain bikes, running, riding their horses, going down to the American River and enjoying the river, and rafting. So I think the recreational lifestyle is highly attractive to people. And what we're trying to bring to our areas, we have the Forest Hill Bridge, and we're trying to bring professional parachutists to jump off the bridge. And there's many successful of these kinds of activities in West Virginia and so forth. So we're going to bring that to Auburn. And those are the kinds of things. Zip lining, we're going to explore that. So it's a fun place.
Sounds like it's a big recreational destination.
It's a huge, we have 1 million people visit the Auburn recreation area each year. So it's very busy, and then as part of the Chamber of Commerce, my job is to, after they have a good time, try to bring them into our town, our restaurants, and our small shops.
Well, one of the interesting things about this dichotomy of the area is that lots of recreation, you know, agriculture, things like that, but also I guess that there's even high-tech manufacturing there. That there's a company there, Citronex, I believe it is, that manufactures a lot of the video components for the gaming industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, my mother, my sister, and her husband at the time all worked at a company called Envision, which was the largest electronics manufacturer doing switching equipment for televisions in the world at the time. And it's based just outside of Grass Valley, later became Grass Valley Group. It was a sort of a Silicon Valley transplant. People there that led that company at the time, they wanted a break from the mania of urbanization. And so they were able to set up shop there. It became a huge concern, a major employer, and it was something that provided a lot of great employment for people. And it may not necessarily be, you know, what people are acquainted with. They're acquainted with the small towns and the small shops, which is absolutely part of the the fabric of the community, but there's also those tech businesses that you can find dotted up and down the Sierra as well, sort of a different pot of gold, if you would.
Kevin, do you see a future for any of that?
I do. At the Auburn Airport, we also have a business park. And we've attracted a lot of high-tech companies, medical device manufacturers, hard drives, indestructible hard drives for your computer. And it's really fun to go in and view those businesses because you see manufacturing happening. And also the aviation-related businesses, gyroscopes, and so forth. So the CEOs really appreciate the municipal airport, the business park. They can fly in, they can fly out goods and bring in parts. They're not too bulky. So there is really a great future for those types of businesses. And plus, with new high-tech businesses, people can work from home, create high-tech and software, and still have the beautiful surroundings at the same time, because they're not necessarily tied to maybe a big port or railroad hub. They have a little more freedom to bring their business and sort of shop around on what is attractive for their families. Are there good educational opportunities for their kids there? And that's expanding in the Gold Country too, as far as bringing a CSU, maybe Warwick University from England. We have William Jessup in Placer County. So those are attractive elements for entrepreneurs.
Incidentally, you weren't born up in Auburn. How did you make your way here?
I was born in Silicon Valley. My dad was a butcher, and Silicon Valley sort of exploded all around him. And after service in the Navy overseas, I wanted to get involved in California politics, so I just became an intern in the state Senate, and I moved to Rescue in El Dorado County, and that was named after a gold strike in the 1880s that rescued the town.
Really?
And then when I got married to my wife, we were looking for a nice Sierra foothills town, and we found Auburn, and that's where we've lived ever since.
What's the best thing about living there?
I think it's the community spirit. We just had our Festival of Lights parade, our Christmas parade, and we have 14,000 people come and watch 100 floats, and you see the kids so enthusiastic and enjoying our small town. I think that community spirit is really enjoyable. And whatever we do, in my service on the city council or as chamber CEO, we have no trouble getting volunteers to do various community projects, and that's really fun.
And Bill, you work in Sacramento. What keeps you from just moving down to Sacramento?
Well, I think growing up in the Gold Country like I did, I fell in love with the pine trees, with the open spaces, really the beauty of it. The snow in the winter, the absolute beautiful flowers and the flowing rivers in the spring. So it's just a really picturesque, captured your imagination sort of place. So I think I found a good common ground. I'm on the eastern side of Placer County, sort of straddling both worlds. So within a very short bike ride, I'm up at Auburn and in the American River Canyon where so many bicyclists ride. But I'm also close enough to work that with a little bit of a commute, I'm able to work in a major urban area.
You know, one of the major industries in the Gold Country is agriculture of a bunch of different varieties. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, when we talk about farm to fork within this region, there's almost an implied orientation that farm to fork is as sort of the crops of YOLO might define it, which tend to be more flat crops, mm-hmm. Rice, things like that. And this is really for both of you, mm-hmm. Is the farm to fork experience different in Gold Country than it is on the flatlands?
The Sacramento Area Council of Governments, known as SACOG, did a wonderful, what's called a crop map. And it shows the 6 counties, and it shows in different colors where the different crops. So they have red for tomatoes, and you see that a lot in Yolo. But then you see the vineyards, and you see different kind of crops. So there's really a diversity of agriculture in our entire region. And in Placer County, we've developed a dozen farmers markets. We have the Mandarin and the Mandarin Festival, which is really popular.
Oh yes, we had one of the queens of the Mandarins and those farmers markets, Joanne Neff, on the show.
Yes.
Who is a true force of nature.
She's a force of nature. She is one of my neighbors, and we talk all the time, and I really admire the change that she has brought to not only Placer, but the entire Sacramento region in pushing local agriculture. It really is amazing. And she is responsible for the farmers markets and the Mandarin Festival, but also in the Gold Country, and you see it in Amador, El Dorado, Placer, Nevada County, exploding wine industry. Some of the most wonderful wines in all of California are actually in our backyard. And so there's a great diversity. There tend to be smaller ranches, smaller farms, but we're trying to preserve that. And we recognize that in order to preserve those beautiful working lands, they have to make a little money. And that's why we're looking at a winery ordinance update in Placer County, because we want to make sure that they can prosper in order to keep those vineyards going and not turn into subdivisions and so forth. So we have to look at the concerns of the farmers and the vintners in the future.
And that's an excellent point, Bill. It would seem to me that as this zone that's in between the Sierras and the city, that there's tremendous pressure, upward pressure with regards to land use. And people who want the experience that you both have so well described from a lifestyle perspective, bumping up against converting land that otherwise would be used for these important agricultural products being converted into ranchettes. And the interesting thing for me as an observer is that a couple years ago, the Sacramento City Council was described by some as being sort of like a kindergarten class that had lost their teacher. But you know, up in Gold Country, it would seem that you all have your own fights up there, and some of them are just as fierce as your city cousins.
Well, they are, and I think what Kevin pointed out is the importance of, when it comes to agriculture in particular, that we create an environment and a set of conditions where agriculture can thrive, and where people who are hardworking and tending the grapes and making sure that the tree crops are producing, that they're able to make a living wage and keep their lands in production. It's when we're not doing those things that those lands then become optional, available for growth and development. So we actually have an interest in making sure that we preserve that agricultural heritage and make sure that we have a strong, robust rural economy. And I know that is a very big consideration of the Chamber of Commerce there, but also all of us, because we know how important it is.
Now, with all of the wonderful things that are happening up in this area, you all, though, do have your own set of issues, don't you? There are homeless up there. There are hungry. I assume that comes with any community.
It does. I think the biggest challenge is the danger of fire. 84% of the Sierra is owned by government, and thus far we've had this situation of a lot of timber harvesting in the early 1900s, but fire suppression after that. So what we have is a natural forest of 100, 120 trees per acre has turned into 400 to 500 trees per acre, dense, unhealthy forests that create mega fires and huge costs for the government, and basically taking restoration funds and supporting suppression, which is right, but we're always falling behind. So that's the number one problem that I see. On the homeless issue, yes, we do have homeless issues, and on the city council I worked on some panhandling ordinances where we try to convince the local residents to be generous to the Salvation Army, to the Gathering Inn, to those supportive nonprofits that will help those people who need the help, to support mental health services, but not to give that person the money themselves because of the substance abuse and so forth. So we've tried to do a public campaign of, yes, be generous, support those nonprofits, let's help the people who need the help, but let's not support a destructive lifestyle with the substance abuse especially.
What is the Gathering Inn?
The Gathering Inn is a nonprofit in kind of the Roseville area in which they help the homeless sleep overnight at various churches all over Placer County, and we each take our turn. They come up to Auburn at one of our churches and stay the night and are taken care of. And they're kind of tough love people. It's very interesting to talk to them, where they totally support our program to lower the homeless and to help the homeless with the panhandling approach. And so they're a very supportive organization, very cost effective. Same with the Salvation Army. They really know how to help people, and the more we can support them, the better our total community will be.
Well, you know, homelessness is tied to jobs and education and a whole host of factors. Mm-hmm. How is the economy of the Gold Country connected to the broader region?
Well, when we think about our economies today, economies no longer operate at merely a city scale or even a county scale. They operate at a metro scale or a multi-county scale. It's where there are the people that are drawn from the workforce, there where the businesses get their supplies. And so it sort of operates in the Sacramento region at a 6-county scale, about 2 million people. And there's about 70,000 employers throughout the region. And by the way, about 90% of them have 20 or fewer employees.
Really?
So we really, our economy, our $100 billion economy runs on the backs of those small businesses. About half of that economic output is from those small businesses. So, and many of them are in the Gold Country. They're certainly in the urban area, but they are throughout the Gold Country. And so as we think about the governmental policies and regulations, but also workforce issues around education, and also the great quality of life. All of these things go towards creating sort of a vibrant economy.
Well, you have to have that in order to attract and keep your residents. And you talked about young families locating up to the mm-hmm. area. Are they staying? Are the young people that are growing up there staying? Or, you know, in other parts of the state that are more rural, you have this exodus of young people. How's it going up there?
Generally, the Gold Country has an older population than the rest of California. And our challenge is to attract young people who want the adventurous lifestyle, the recreational lifestyle.
You guys incidentally host like some Iron Man race or something like that up there that's like world renowned?
Auburn is the endurance capital of the world. And
what does that mean?
The endurance capital of the world. Basically, we have two of the most famous endurance races in the world, from Squaw Valley to Auburn, the Western States Run and the Tevis Cup Ride. And now they're about 50 years old. And we have riders and runners actually from all over the world come for these two races. And it is an amazing thing to watch, especially the runners, to see them round the track at Placer High after running 100 miles.
It's 100 miles long?
They're running 100 miles in the steep canyons. And this is in the summertime. Wow. They cross a river, actually, And it is often 100 degrees on race day. And so we pride ourselves on the endurance events. At the city, we have a special endurance capital committee in which we encourage the formation of triathlons and 100-mile bike races and all kinds of endurance-related events. But recreation is a big part of that, and attracting these super athletes and all the spectators to our region is really key.
Mm-hmm. So Bill, for those of us who haven't made a visit out of the flatlands for a while, tell us what we're missing.
Well, I think you're missing you're missing an amazing community that is small, where you can literally know your neighbor. So often today, we sort of hang with our own people. And in a small town, you really do know your neighbor. You get to know what's happening in your community. And so there's this sort of spirit of being in it together, and that you're after the welfare of the entire community. The spirit of working together and really looking after one another. It's a spirit that's been lost, but you can find it there.
And we're going to leave it there. Thank you both. And that's our show. Thanks to our guests and thanks to you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syfax. See you next time right here on KVIE.
At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
All episodes of Studio Sacramento, along with other KVIE programs, are available to watch online at kvie.org/video.